Yes, so you can't be part of that compensation. Yours is a contract. So we can't even consider that 3%.
Yeah, we can.
No, we can't.
Yes,
Yeah,
we
you
can.
Why?
Because
How?
that's,
She can't
that's
be
why
part
it's
of
set
that.
up for.
She can't be part of that.
We can use the same scale.
Yeah, we can use the
Foolish
same.
to not use the same scale.
But why are we doing that before evaluations take place?
They're basically done.
Nope.
Well, and
We're just waiting for.
All we're waiting for is
a
one.
Couple, well, I think one.
Yeah.
When was it we had that valuation, was that in June or something?
What do you mean?
We had city manager evaluation.
Well, that was for last year.
Yeah, for last year.
Yeah.
No, we had it in.
But we did new
November.
ones again, this wasn't like November, October or something?
November.
Yeah.
And they weren't done according to the wishes of the council.
They were all anonymous to,
No,
yeah, they were.
ours were not supposed to be anonymous. Only the people that worked underneath you.
Why, what difference as far as they're anonymous or
Well,
not?
do you make an anonymous one for Gary, being he's sitting out there, for Jessica?
No, why
No.
would I?
Huh?
No, why would I?
Okay, that's what I'm saying.
I mean, under
But do
under a Plan B
more than
city.
one people fill out a Jessica
No.
evaluation? Okay? So that was the reasoning behind when we set up the evaluation.
Well, then what,
Then-
from what you're saying, you shouldn't have filled out a evaluation, none of you for me last year.
We should fill them out on you, but
Yeah.
they are not to be anonymous. And that's one reason.
That wasn't the understanding of this whole anonymous,
Why, I don't understand why you wouldn't.
yeah.
Why does her have, because she works under the direction of the council.
Yeah.
So it shouldn't have to be anonymous of what we put in.
Well, it was a huge deal last year that things weren't anonymous enough.
For our employees
No.
working under TAM.
So if
No.
ours wanted to be anonymous, shouldn't you have that option? This way, you have the option. They're anonymous. If you don't want anonymous, you can physically bring it in and give it to her, or put your name on it. It should be an option.
Yeah, so I mean, it didn't have my name on it, but I handed it to her, so
Yeah,
I think she could put the two together.
because it should be up to us whether it's anonymous or not.
Well, that isn't the way we set it up, or was supposed to be set up.
No, you wanted it all anonymous last year.
Tammy?
What difference does it make whether it's anonymous? I don't get this. I
I
don't,
don't
why are we
Well,
arguing
this is
about it?
one reason I wanted to see her employee file, because I wanted to look at her employee file, which I was refused to look at. her
We've seen
employee
all
file.
the evaluations.
Huh?
We've gone through evaluations.
But I didn't see them all. Not all of you filled them out,
Well, some people just didn't,
yeah?
so that you can't see something that's not done.
And as far as when you talk about, when you just call me and say that you want to see my personnel file, under the league's guidance, about, they get multiple calls about individual council members, including mayors like yourself.
Can you
review-
talk into, so I can hear you?
So that, council members can, if they want to ask and want to see the private personnel documents, individuals whose job duties reasonably require access to private data may, in certain instances, view the data. Since individual council members do not have authority over city personnel, they cannot, as a matter of course, assess this private information.
Oh, I agree, I can't assess Jessica, but who can assess yours? Nobody.
Nobody.
Well, that's ridiculous, why even have a personnel file? I'm sorry,
Well, that's,
it's the dumbest thing.
it's only the individuals such as Jessica and I who have the rights to access those. Otherwise, it's all either private personnel data.
Yours is not private to us as council members, no matter what, and I don't care what you say.
But
Well-
we saw all of the evaluations, and that's really the pertinent information that we need to see.
I'm reading you the
Right,
law.
I've seen the evaluations. I've talked to department heads and pretty much everybody that works here. I don't quite get the issue.
Well, I would like to do a sit down with the council evaluation of Tammy, whether we do it tonight.
We did ours. Mine's in and done.
No. A verbal council
at the
closed session.
At the
What,
December
just-
meeting, you mean, like we did last year too?
Prior
Can,
to,
but I don't know what you're gaining. If you just want to say stuff, I mean, all we're gonna say is, I'll speak for myself. My recommendation was good. I'm not gonna sit through like an hour of bashing. I mean, if it's a productive purpose, I will, but
I'm not going through 2021, 2022, what happened in 2021. You know, and that's why I wanted this closed tonight, but Tammy,
I don't know what happened in 21.
uh-huh,
I don't either.
No,
what happened?
I mean, we did the closed review. That's confusing.
Then I would like to, before we do anything, sit down with each council member individually, so it's not a
Isn't
open
that,
meeting.
that's an open meeting law violation? That would be a serial meeting with
Right,
each councilman.
You can't have a council member sit down with a number of other council members that would equal a quorum to have a serialized discussion.
I'm not asking for that.
He wants to do serial meetings,
Yeah, that's
one
what
on
you're-
each time. Yeah. And
So I
that's
can't
still-
discuss a problem with more than one council member,
Well, correct, on city business,
huh?
no elected official should have conversations in a private setting where it's not accessible to the public on city business with a number of council members that would equal the quorum.
No, I'm not asking for that.
No,
I'm saying,
what he wants to do
if I
is
could,
call each
just, Tammy, just a
council
minute, so
about
we have this right.
my evaluation.
The manner in which the communication takes place is irrelevant. It's the fact that the communication takes place at all is what would be problematic.
So I couldn't talk to Norris ahead of time about this land purchase and also talk to Dave about the land purchase.
Correct. That would be a violation of the open meeting law because you'd be having a quorum of the council, would be having a conversation about city business outside of an open meeting law session. That would be what's called a serialized meeting under the open meeting law.
Even if those conversations were separate?
Correct. They don't, yeah, the three people don't have to be in the same room having the conversation at the same time. If one person has a conversation with a council member about issue A, and then that council member has a conversation with another person, or even that second person has the same conversation, the argument would be made, that's a serialized meeting, you're having a quorum of 3 members of a 5-person panel are having a conversation about city business outside of an open meeting session. That's what a serialized meeting is defined as, under the open meeting law. So that's why this is, an open meeting is where the council would have the conversation about whatever it is that it wants to have the conversation. And in the context of a personnel evaluation, that's the right of the employee to decide if it's going to be closed. But I don't think that's what's on the agenda tonight, but I don't want to speak.
So then my thoughts is if we want an evaluation of Tammy prior to offering her a contract, it has to be either at an open meeting or a closed meeting. But Tammy has the right to say, I want it at an open meeting.
Correct.
So my recommendation was, I'd like to sit down with Tammy because there's some stuff that I would like to bring up at a closed meeting concerning her evaluation and let her decide if she wants it to be closed or open. Is that fair?
You can certainly, you made the statement, you can certainly do that. I mean, it's
Okay.
not my position to say proceed with what you guys choose to do.
So that's what I'd like to do on that topic. Rather than
I
bringing
would-
it up at an open meeting at this time.
I'd request that I have another individual there.
What?
I would request that I want another individual at that meeting.
Should do it before, I'm assuming before the December meeting,
Correct.
so we can get this done.
You can request that, but I don't have to allow that. Because we tried that once before and it didn't work.
I don't know what you mean.
As far as before every council meeting, I had
No, we're
a,
just talking about you wanting to meet with me, but I want another person there.
I'm not willing to do that.
I don't know that you have a choice. You have the right to have someone there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Why?
I don't, yeah, I would agree.
You
So-
know, I do. If
so
I
I-
get called into the principal, I have a right to bring in your representation or someone
I
else
can
with me.
bring anybody
So,
else.
my
so if you come in and talk to Tammy tomorrow, I can request I'm in on that conversation?
No, she's the one that wants someone for her own
Rather-
protection, is what she's saying.
Well, maybe I want somebody for my protection.
Then you can have someone come.
Yeah, it's up to the principal parties of the
Correct.
discussion, whether or not you want to bring in representation or not.
Correct.
Tammy, can we agree on that person will be Damien?
Sure.
Huh?
No.
No? If we can't agree on one person together, the same person,
He's the most expensive person in the room.
and he's not getting a raise.
No.
Either that or we
I have-
pick a
Mr. Mayor,
neutral
I have a
person.
hard time, if there's no other option and that's the only thing that can happen, so be it, but I will tell you and Tammy and members of the council that I represent the city. I don't represent any one individual on the council, I don't represent any one employee. And if a conflict should arise, I don't feel comfortable if I'm potentially a witness to what claims may arise in the future, or if I'm gonna prove problematic to resolution of the claims, so, I mean, it's.
But that's been happening every time that we have something come up, like tonight on the closed
So
meeting.
why don't you just meet with us, Dave? If you're.
No, I'm
able.
not asking for that. There's a personnel committee.
What is the purpose of the meeting? Just to decide whether or not Tammy wants to decide if it's open or closed?
Yes,
Because there's,
That's-
I guess I'm just
Are
confused.
you talking about the performance evaluation?
no, I'm talking about the whole, performance evaluation. I wanna bring some things up that, and then let her decide if she wants it closed or open.
Why don't you just email them to me?
Huh?
You should just email those to me then. You're,
I'll come in to talk to you and then we'll decide on that. Because I'm not putting anything down on the email until I talk to you. So, okay. Moving on to the budget.
So many evaluations, I mean, the last one, we had a lot of staff participated and they were all very positive. And
But there were only 5 true ones.
Well,
There were.
that's a little bit of defamation, don't you think?
There were
Wow.
people that just went down the line and checked one
That's how
thing.
evaluations work.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's.
Well, I don't call that a true evaluation.
Well.
But it's not for you to decide.
It's not up to you to
No,
decide.
but I just said that there were only, from me, there were only 5 true evaluations, and I could almost pick out which employees filled those out.
We had this exact same conversations the last time
Yeah.
we went through this. I don't see that it's a good use of council time to continue
Okay.
with this conversation.
So let's table this whole subject till the 17th meeting.
15th.
Huh?
15th.
16th?
15th.
Okay, now, I got another question on that before we get going, is truth and taxation that same night?
Yes, it is.
Yes, it was posted.
And it was posted in the paper, I didn't see it in the
Yes, it
paper.
is.
I did, I saw the
The
paper.
change? Okay.
Yes,
So, and it was posted in time?
yes,
Yep, and all the changes for the council meetings were posted.
Okay,
yes.
okay. Okay, let's move on to the budget. All in favor of table none?
We didn't make a motion.
That's what I want a motion for tabling.
I'll make a motion to table it.
Somebody second it?
I can second it.
Norris, how do you vote?
Aye.
Lindsay?
Aye.
Cory?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Pete, yes. Okay, moving on to the budget.
You're on, Jessica.
Pardon me?
Jessica, you're on.
From that standpoint, we are going to go through it and ask questions as we go through it tonight. And then we can make decisions and ask Jessica questions as far as what the budget committee came up with. Now, I had a hard time taking, and I talked to Jessica this afternoon, I had a hard time taking and comparing the notes, because the one we got in September was all scenario number 1. And we voted to go with scenario number 2. So it was a little hard to take and look at them both on the personnel part of the budget and that. But I think we can go through it and look at Adam and start out on page 3 of the new budget. And right now, it's down to 0% is my understanding. And I did find, and maybe the council members are gonna have to help me on this one. Last year at our budget meeting, in the agenda, before we voted on the final budget, the budget was set and the levy was set at $950,000 on the agenda. If you look at the agenda, but
changed it.
the resolution came in at 975. Was there a reason that we increased it from the agenda last year? I can't remember.
I think you've got the minutes, don't you?
Huh?
Yeah, there was.
Yeah.
And in all the
Who's this?
digging I done this week, you know, and I found the signed one.
I think it just
Okay.
came down to the percentage decrease. It didn't, Norris, I thought you brought up something about not getting into the general or the reserve so much or something. I remember we had that discussion. It was something.
Because
Yeah, I can read you the minutes if you'd like.
Okay.
I called for a motion for approval on the final budget and tax levy. Motion by Johnson, second by C. Peterson to
Tammy, you
approve.
gotta talk more into, my hearing aids aren't right.
Okay. We did some discussion. Mayor, he called for comments on the final budget levy. Dylan commented that the negative 3.11% levy may be aggressive and met with Tammy and did a different levy amount. And that it was a negative 0.56 levy, and that would give us $27,000 in reserve to the dollars available if something should happen in the budget. C. Peterson commented that the last 11 years, if it was a negative 3.11 levy, would be an average of 1.06. Johnson stated he was comfortable with the negative 3.11 levy percentage and that we have adequate reserves. Mayor Pedersen commented that the profit and loss statements do not correspond with the budget, that the budget committee will work on it. The budget report from the Banyan system was not correct. Mayor Peterson commented that there was enough in reserves. The city manager commented that the council consider that 975 with a 0.56 negative levy gives that excess of 27,000. And there's no major street projects in the budget for that year that they would have to bond for. Let's see.
Yeah,
You
and
did.
That little cushion we talked about, we should just be careful with.
Yeah, so the final levy, as it was a motion by Johnson to amend the levy to be at 975, and Dylan seconds the motion.
So I was wondering why in the agenda it was 950 and I. and
Yeah, we
I
had a lot
thought-
of discussion on it.
Yes, and I was wondering just why. And then,
Yeah,
what date was that meeting? Was that the December?
December 17th of 2020.
17th, so that was the final one, okay.
Yep,
And at that time, we didn't know the profit and loss was still up in, because we had gone through so many budgets. Okay, okay. The only comment, are there any comments on page from the changes that were made on page 3 of the new one? I got my old one here too, and that shouldn't have changed a whole lot, but some of the figures did. And where did you cut the 2% down to 0? Because as far as the budget committee.
well, if you recall, all the CIP was asked to reduce theirs
Yes.
another 5%.
Wasn't a lot of that on the notes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I got that.
Everything's on the
It's
notes.
just a combination of all the changes that happened from the preliminary through
Okay.
this one.
Yeah,
So we reduced the CIP,
yeah,
we removed an additional $7,500. The police department removed an additional $1,500. We took 25,000 more out of the alley pavement.
which alley was that gonna be paved?
I don't
That
recall.
we,
Yet to be determined, I was trying to
Yeah,
get,
Oh.
we had a history of doing an alley a year for the last few years and it wasn't budgeted.
because that was one of my questions later, which alley was it that we
Yeah,
took it out? Because if it was a bad one, and I couldn't come up with one that was bad, because, really bad.
yeah, there's not any really bad
Okay,
asphalt ones, but
okay.
this one behind City Hall here washes out all the time and there's a number of people that want their alleys.
Okay,
we also, reduced the workers' comp insurance for the fire department because we had a claim drop off, so we dropped that down 20,000. Let's see. And then adding in the scenario 2 into the expenditures, it changes the overall summary that you had previously.
okay. I understand the expenditures, but I don't understand the revenue, why the difference of all of a sudden, we were looking at a 6.2% revenue and now it's 7.4. Because the big one that stuck out at me is that the first budget had only $400 and the 21 underneath lodging taxes. And now it's 1,500 and our is 1,500. So somehow it went from, and our lodging tax isn't even, our percentage isn't even that at our last meeting.
So
our
as I
tourism
stated
meeting.
in my comments, I went through all the line items again, because I've updated the
Yeah.
numbers through
Yeah.
October. So the original preliminary was an estimate with a 5% increase across the board. with a 2% tax levy. Without having a crystal ball, I'm doing a lot of educated guessing. So when
But
I
that-
looked at where we are at year-to-date as of October, when I was redoing this, I made the decision that probably the $2,400 was a little too high for the revenue on the lodging tax, and I brought it down to $1,500 to be more realistic. So, given that the 3-year average was only $640, our current year-to-date through October was $1,200, I am guessing it's gonna be close to $1,500.
Well, see, the problem is that we only get, what, 2% of that, Tammy?
This is
Good.
that portion. That's not the entire amount.
So you're saying our lodging tax is gonna be 98% more than that?
No, I'm saying that our lodging tax will be $1,500 approximately.
No. What the tourism takes in? Cause that, no way is
We-
where the tourism is at.
We cut a check to the Chamber of Commerce, right? The
Yep.
chamber,
Yeah,
Chamber, yep.
roughly between $800 and $900 a month.
but where's that expensed out? I can't find that
It
expensed out.
isn't.
It's not
It nets
expense.
back.
It's
Huh?
not an expense.
It nets back.
What?
The expenditure nets back to revenue.
Right. There's not a lodging tax expense, because it's not our money to keep. and-
Right, so
So-
why are you claiming it's gonna be $1,500?
Because that's our portion of the tax that we get to keep.
Which is 2% of,
It's 3% of whatever they give me in their report.
okay, add 97% to that, and no way do we bring that much in lodging taxes.
We don't. We don't bring anything in lodging
No,
tax.
no,
What we keep.
But what we keep is
Yes.
3% of that.
but that's way high.
I disagree. We brought in $1,200 already this year.
Not according to our last tourism, we were way behind.
What is tourism compared, this money goes to the chamber.
But that, they hold it for the tourism group.
I don't know how they spend it.
Okay.
I can tell you the checks that I cut in the last several months have been between $800 and $1,100.
Okay. And 3% of that would be, okay. Okay, and then there are some others that raised, from what they were in the other budget. Miscellaneous, I think, was one of them. Because did you just offset by raising revenue, see? And how did revenue on fees and that go up when we froze those till next year?
So it's a projection based on our year-to-date. When I did this originally,
3-year average.
we only had a half a year's worth of data to compare where we were at year-to-date. Given last year was an odd year for everybody, the numbers probably didn't come in the same that they probably had in the past. Looking at the 3-year average and looking at where we are year-to-date, if the economy continues the way it did this year, the projection is to stay consistent with where we are year-to-date.
Okay.
So I'm not fudging numbers to make the revenue.
No, I'm just saying, I don't understand why they go up such a high percentage when we froze them from this scenario one, as far as revenue should be the same no matter what, the revenues, because we only did
I guess my
anything on the
understanding was
expense.
it wasn't a frozen budget, it was
Huh?
a preliminary budget.
Okay,
That's my
And that
understanding.
number goes up because you have better information.
And yes,
Right,
correct.
as the year goes on.
but if we said, hey, we're not gonna up our fees, and you took that into consideration,
Right, no, this doesn't take into account any fees being increased. This is just a projection of what I believe revenues are gonna be. I don't have a crystal ball to say that, nothing's gonna change and the economy is gonna do better
No,
or
but-
worse. But based on the history of what we have here for the last 3 years plus the current year, you're basically just trying to decide, okay, do I think these numbers are gonna go up or down, or are they gonna stay the same?
Okay. I'm just,
I understand what you're asking, but what I'm saying is you can't predict the future.
no.
That's why we put a 3-year average in there, so we have a gauge.
So we have a historical
Okay, but
view.
we didn't
Yep.
get that 3-year average printed out this year.
Yes, it did.
It's on here.
It's right here. 3-year average
Oh.
in the
When
detail.
you get
In the
off
detail.
the big one, in the
Yes.
detail. Okay. Anybody else have any questions on 3? Because I still don't understand that. If we took into consideration adding fees that we froze last week, why is this more than over here? But,
I'm not taking those fee
Okay.
increases into account, except for the airport. The ones that are approved are the only ones that were reallocated into the budget.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, then, anybody else have any, before we get into the detailed ones? Okay, if we get into detailed ones, that's on page 8 of the new one and 13 of the old one. I do have a question on the revenue funding on on page 10 of the old one. I don't have that page.
Nobody here has the old
Okay.
one, Pete. So what we're working off of tonight is this.
Okay, but debt service is less in one report than in the other one. If you look at debt service. And, because if you look at the history of debt service, in 2020, on this page was 482,000. And on another page, I found it at 456,000.
What
So
page?
how could the history change for 2020?
When we're working on this final one, what page are you working on?
There's no page like that in this. This is the 3-year history that was given to us,
Oh, a graph you're looking at?
the graph. If you look at this graph on the 3-year history of, and also on 2021. Now, I talked to Jessica about 22, but you got 2 different numbers on the debit histories. So if you go into the history back on your debits, back in your new one,
I don't know what you're talking
and
about.
when we get there, we can discuss that for that page.
I don't know what page
But
you're
they're
talking
different.
about.
I don't know what you're referring to. In the graph, it could just be an error in entry data when I created the graph.
Well, I'm just saying, that they're different, so.
I don't have the
Okay.
other one in front of me.
Well, I know we changed it at the November meeting. We did the 15-year debt
Right.
service for the bonding issue.
But that shouldn't affect the final audit or the final numbers of 2020 or 2021 on the
Oh,
debt.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay,
You're gonna have
it
to
was,
look back
so.
at numbers.
Anyway, okay, page 8 of the new one. Anybody have any questions on there?
How often does the city shop for employer health care and like comparing prices for the healthcare?
We can shop when our contract is up. We have a 2 years, so
Okay.
after, in 2023, we can shop again.
I just made some major changes on that the last time around.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah, I understand, but I don't know, like the school was on the PIEP
That's what we are
plan,
too.
and
Right.
they just got rid of it because they were able to save tens of thousands of dollars by shopping around.
yep, and we do that.
Okay, thanks for clarifying that.
I think when we changed it, it went the opposite way. Where
Right, and it
We
did for us
saved
too,
money.
but now all of a sudden, this next round, we looked again, and there was a new source, and it was a significant savings.
Very significant, yeah.
Yeah, so it's worth that. Well, just like any insurance, it's worth looking
Yeah,
at.
always.
And it does seem like the longer you stay on a policy with a company,
The higher it
it just keeps
gets.
climbing and
Yeah.
climbing,
Yeah.
and you go, oh, wait a minute.
Right.
yeah, they did have a significant increase to insurance this year for 9%, mainly due to COVID.
A lot of claims.
And part of that cost did get put out to the employees that have family coverage. So for the employees that have single coverage, the city absorbs that cost. But when I redid the numbers from the preliminary, because we didn't have that number at that time, it did change the health and did actually change a little bit because some of the employees, I want to say there's probably about 5 or 10 employees that have family. So their portion increased, which also offset some of that expenditure that we originally projected in the preliminary. So it's kind of a wonky situation, but sometimes when you have the employee pay portion, they can absorb some of that cost, which helped with that extra percentage increase. And we did not get any other increases on our other health benefits, so our life, disability, those plans stayed the same. In the preliminary budget, there was a 2% increase projected, and that was removed.
Then also on that same page, you had down for airport leasing.
Yep,
In the old one, and it was yellowed, and I don't know why that, it was $13,020. And in the new one, it is 12,000. Is it,
That
what was the reason for the one being yellowed then?
that one was a 5% projected increase in the preliminary budget. I
And
don't
we
know
did
why it
that,
was yellowed, but when the resolution was passed to increase the airport lot leases, I did the actual based on who we have renting.
who you have renting?
Yep,
Okay. So because we increased that right away, so that's why I thought those would be the same.
no, that was passed after the preliminary was done.
Oh, it was?
Yep,
For sure? Okay. Okay. Then, airport also. Fuel sales,
yep,
you increased those quite drastically from the first to the second one.
Oh, yeah.
we've had a lot more activity out there.
Okay. Because it was only 10,000, but then the expense is quite, when we get back later, there's quite a big expense there, so,
Right,
'Cause
so
they
this
just
is
filled
just
up.
the sale of the fuel from the pump there.
yeah.
Then the expenditures, the actual cost of what we pay for the fuel. So if they
But
purchase,
then we're losing money on our fuel.
Well, we have a 25% increase. So if you fill up now, you're not gonna sell all that fuel until part of next year.
right,
So we're going to gain 25% on our purchases regardless.
right.
I gotta look at the expense once we get to that, so. Anybody else have any questions on that page? Next page, revenue. Page 9.
I just had kind of a random question on that franchise fee on cable. Is that like per home or something, or,
No.
because it changes?
It's, yeah,
No.
they're in their contract, it's a 3%, it's supposed to be a 3% increase each year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then
But if they lose customers and their revenue
then
falls,
it-
ours does too.
Okay.
are we still getting water tower from?
Yes. Yes.
AT&T,
What?
it's AT&T, I believe.
No. What was it, Genesis?
Genesis is on the old water tower.
Are they
Yes.
still paying?
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, and then on that page, your first budget had miscellaneous donations at 10,500, and then you upped it to 15,000?
Miscellaneous donation.
Under donations, line 3.
Where's that?
Because I think pretty well our big donations have fizzled out, you know.
I'm not seeing it.
On the second page.
It's line 3 on the new budget,
On page 9.
Oh.
On page
on
nine.
page 9.
Donations?
Yeah.
Is 15,750, and on the one you made up in October, it was
Well, if
10,500.
Public Works intends on doing another event, that's where a lot of that comes in.
Right.
Okay, I was just wondering,
Yeah.
because,
I would recommend you leave it at that because you've had other citizens in the city that come in and they'll give a big donation as well.
okay, well, I just wondered what changed in, if you knew there's something I didn't know of.
Just.
And then, so that went from, that line item went from 16% to 20%, so 4% raise in revenue. So, okay. And then on the bottom of that, in actuality of 2020, there was a difference there also on your old one that you gave us in September for your actual, which was already audited, is different than what you gave us this year, and I don't know why. Because it's,
What is it?
the actual under the fire fund reserve. The reserve fund, down, bottom line on page 9, was $2,387,596.02. And on the budget we got in September, that was 2,312 instead of 387.
Well,
So,
I have,
which made the 3-year average different.
well, I have 2,387,596.02 on the preliminary budget.
You have what?
I have the same number on the preliminary budget that copy that I have.
Okay, if you're looking at fire reserve down below, the
Yeah,
final line, what do you have on the original September budget?
so for fire department reserve fund is 75,548, and the total is 2,387,596.02 for all for general fund revenue for 2020.
Yes, but on what you gave us on the preliminary budget back in September, it's 2,312.
I don't know what copy you're looking at, but the one I have does not have the
No.
number.
Here, right here. You wanna
No, I
come-
believe you have a copy, but I don't, this is,
Know which
this,
one it is.
I don't know.
It's page 14 of the first budget.
Does it say 2,000, or 2,312,040?
Huh?
Does it say 2,312,047.62?
Yeah,
That's the general fund actual.
it's under
Is it-
fire reserves.
If you look,
Yeah.
but if you go straight up, it's
Right,
general funds
it's
to the
just
left.
general fund. So down below is another total.
The number up above.
You're looking at the.
Oh,
numbers.
then I don't have the two numbers,
Right,
huh?
yeah,
what
you're
you
looking
got?
at two different numbers.
Well, there,
Go up there.
Yeah,
The
go
one
up there and
is
show it.
general fund, and the other one adds in
Yeah.
the fire department reserve.
Yeah, so that's the one he's reading, is that one.
So this is the total.
yeah,
This is the total of the general fund.
okay.
This is including,
So what is this?
this is the total.
So why isn't this the total? There's no total on here then?
I don't know why yours is like that. The one I have is not like that.
Oh, that's right, but that's from our original
Oh.
budget. See what I'm saying?
I am, but the copy that I have that was the final preliminary is not like this.
Because see, none of these figures are in here, that 75,
Well, that would
In
be
the
why
original.
that number, I'm not sure. I
Okay.
don't know.
because that's the original one.
The one I have
Okay.
is final preliminary. I
Yeah,
don't know.
and that's what I have here. So I didn't have numbers back, but okay.
Okay.
We didn't have numbers back then.
But that's just affecting the total. I guess my question for you is why are we looking at 2020 numbers right now?
No, I just do the comparison.
No, and I understand
And
that,
when they're off, I wonder why.
but, okay.
So, because to me, that's information that I use, because I go over all the numbers. So, moving on to page 10. Yeah, page 10. On the budget there. Any questions from any of the council members? I have, okay. The only question I had on there is, and it's, because I was looking at scenario 2, I did have a question on the assessment from the assessor's office. Does that include what they talked about charging us for voting machines, or is that just for assessing?
Just assessing.
That's just assessing, okay. Okay. Then on the next page, you did remove the carpeting from City Hall, right?
Correct,
And that's a change from there.
correct.
And then I did have a question of the police last time, and that's probably where we got cut off. Did we try to do any grants for the body cameras, even though they were purchased? Because there was money out there for state grants for body cameras. Did we try to get any of that?
You can't go backwards on a grant once you've already paid for it.
Well, because it could go into the,
The
so
only
it wasn't
grants
even
that
looked
I see
into.
out there right now
Huh?
are FEMA Fire Department grants. That's the only ones that are out there for,
Okay. Okay, then, page 12.
I was gonna say, if you recall, there's 25,000, plus they had
Can you move your
1,000.
thing closer to you? 'Cause I
Yeah,
have-
they had 25,000, if you recall, from the donation monies, plus $1,000 from Quick Trip.
Yeah,
That was for the purchase of the body cameras.
Yep.
So I don't know what the idea would be to go for a grant when we already had the funds to pay for it.
but we didn't have funds to pay for all of it.
There was a very little bit left.
Okay, okay. Okay, page 12. The only question I have on there is the building inspector. Between the September meeting and this meeting, you raised the expense of that quite drastically. It was 32,000 in September, and now it's up to 45,000.
It's an estimate, it's a new contract, and it's a percentage of,
Because I thought one reason we switched, it was gonna be cheaper, and you look at your 3-year average and it's not cheaper.
Well, that's because prior it was a
Wage.
full-time position. Now we just started a new contract, so our permitting has gone up, so we've done a lot more permitting this year, so trying to estimate what the cost is gonna be for next year. Cause I believe it's a percentage of the permitting fee that he receives.
It is,
So,
but we didn't raise the fees. So how could that estimate go from 32
This
to
is for-
45,000?
Because there are more permits being issued.
this is
If
for
you
the
look at-
person that we hired to do the permitting,
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
not for the actual permits themselves.
No, I know that.
Okay.
That's for the expense. But that's getting close to the argument we had on, the 3-year average. It's only $4,000 off the 3-year average. You know, the expense.
Right, but the difference is that 3-year average is reflecting a different
Wages.
type of service.
I know,
So
but
I'm
that's why we
guessing,
sorta eliminated that service, 'cause it'd be cheaper, but
but
now,
that didn't take into account the wages we were paying. The wages were going into a different fund. So the inspection services here are still more than half of what we were paying in wages and taxes.
okay.
This arrangement now with the contract, if,
It's gonna cost us 45,000.
No.
because we've got income from the permits. We're guaranteed, what does he take, 60% of the permit?
yes.
Yeah.
So we get 40% of whatever permit fees people pay. So if, like what happened some years ago when permits really dropped off, we were paying
Yeah.
a lot of money
Okay,
for somebody to do very little work. And
We
that
may
had
not spend
happened.
that much money.
okay.
So we're guaranteed 40% of whatever permit costs.
But this, I'm talking about the expense, so,
Yeah.
okay,
Well, that's a guesstimate of how much
okay.
people are gonna, how many permits people
Okay.
buy.
But from September to now to go up that quite a bit
Well,
is,
there must have been a lot of permits
Yeah.
issued.
okay.
Well, so far this year, we've spent nearly $60,000, so, in inspection services.
Okay, now what was eliminated on page 13? A mower? The way it looks?
The CIP,
Huh?
The seal
CIP
coating,
mower?
yeah, yes.
It was a seal coating.
The seal coating is in there for 100,000.
Or, I'm sorry, the alley, I meant.
The alley for 25.
Eh, okay, and then on there also, I see we added 6 lights. Is that? What 6 lights were those?
The street project.
Downtown,
Yep.
Was there were, okay. So we didn't pay that out of the 2021 budget?
Well, you're gonna pay some electric bills out of the 2021 budget, yeah.
But the actual lights didn't come out of the bonding?
Yes, they did.
I guess my,
So why is it expense here, Gary?
Find that, what was
Is
the,
it the electric services for the streetlights is what you're talking about, not the
Not the actual poles.
no,
poles.
no, and the actual bulbs cost quite a bit, correct?
yeah, the bulbs were.
And utilities were
couple thousand,
projected,
this is-
But utilities are underneath that. This is poles, it says streetlights, the utilities is right underneath that.
That's no, on the budget, streetlights, that's our electric bill for
Is it?
streetlights.
Okay.
Because if you look at the history, it's this, we're not adding streetlights every year.
It's increasing because we added 6 more streetlights.
Right.
So next year that line won't be there?
No, it'll be there.
No,
It'll be
because
there.
next to it I have electric
Maybe it'll be a
services.
little cheaper because they're LED, but you're still, that's the price we're paying.
So the explanation is saying we added 6 more streetlights. Our utility electric services for streetlights is going to increase.
And the 6 new streetlights did come out, they're coming out of 2021. Just the
Electricity.
electricity to the, and all the rest.
Okay. Then page 14. What's this change in shelter, 150 per month?
That's for at the park.
Huh?
There's a changing shelter that we pay rent for somewhere.
I'm guessing that's a porta potty.
Oh, yep.
Huh?
We put a porta potty.
It's mislabeled, it says porta
Okay.
potty.
Oh, I was wondering if we were adding a changing
No, I
out.
think that's a combination of a couple of
I
the
think the bill said
satellite restrooms.
something different,
Oh, okay.
but
Yeah, they call them something else on the bill.
And then the expense on there, on the first budget was for the Minnesota Park membership, cleaning, food stand license went from 3,000 to 4,500 from the September. Those should have been set, or no?
well, we paid $4,200 this year. My guess is their costs are gonna go up next year, so I increased it slightly in case they do increase their costs.
Okay. Any council members have any comments on when they reviewed the new budget? Because I haven't heard any. I hate to be the only one making comments of studying the budget.
Oh, she did a good job.
Well, I'm not denying that, and I told her that. I told her that this afternoon, that I thought she did a better job by far than what was done last year.
Again, defamation.
14, page 14.
One question I have on the airports, there's repairs to the Crown Vic.
Thank you, that's mine too.
Yep, that's our,
Is that, do we still have an airport car?
yeah,
Yeah.
we do.
Yes, that replaced the old Charger.
Yeah,
Yes.
Oh, okay.
yep.
Did the issues with the last year's budget have a lot to do with the software?
No,
No?
there wasn't anything wrong with last year's budget. It was fine.
Tammy, move that closer to you, I can't hear you at all.
Oh,
The one under the same thing though, Norris, under the airport thing that we have $1,000 worth of safety glasses and gloves at the airport, or is that just like miscellaneous expenses?
miscellaneous.
Okay, I kinda figured that.
So
That's
what
all.
I was, yeah, my,
Yep, cleaning and, yeah.
my,
Safe.
my notes were trying to capture, some of
What
the
was
items that
going
we
on.
pay for,
Yep.
and it's not everything, because I only have so much space.
Yeah, that's kinda what I thought.
But now that Crown Vic, I'm glad he brought it up, because that's the one thing we couldn't even sell it for that, could we? And how often is that used?
Not very often.
You know, to throw $3,000 into a vehicle, the Crown Vic.
Includes gas, but, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
That would be something probably to look at and see how often it's used, if it's,
Yeah, once every few months maybe.
yeah.
That's one of the issues,
Not
it
much.
doesn't get used, so then if somebody does use it, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess that's up to you, if you guys wanna continue to provide that service or not, I don't know.
Could we put a
It's
scooter,
a
put a
great
scooter
deal
out
for
there?
a pilot. Anybody can go, yeah, I mean, you,
Be a little cold today, but
it's out there.
I think we take that service out of there and sell it.
Well, that's why I noticed it, because I thought we had one when the Charger
Yeah,
went to pot. I thought when we got rid of that, that was the end of the courtesy car
no,
there.
we put the courtesy card, the Crown Vic.
Is there any kind of like logbook or anything, like when it's used?
Probably.
I mean, that might be good
Not the airport
information.
manager, so I know that does.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be good information instead of just going off, it doesn't
Yeah.
seem to be used a lot.
I think
It'd be
the-
nice to have documentation.
The benefit is that you hope that it gets used a lot and they're coming into town to.
Right, right.
You know, use things.
Yeah.
Well, the only one that used it before, when it was the old one,
Right,
was a doctor that was going up to Onamia.
yeah.
And then he blew it up or something.
But now I guess there has been increased traffic out there. I'll look at the logs and see if I can get you guys more information about how often it's used.
How do they sign it out, or how do they?
There's, do you want me to say? Like, anybody, yeah, if you land, you can
Yeah,
type, go in the
Should
lounge, I
find
guess.
out.
and then-
Huh?
find out from like the airport manager.
Yeah,
Okay, because that's something that could, if we're paying that much to repair it, it ain't worth that much.
Right, plus I factored in the cost of gas increasing too. so-
And insurance, and
insurance and all that
Yeah.
goes there.
but it's something that I think we should look into cutting. Okay,
The actual cost through this year is 2,000 or about, so. Yeah, that's,
now, then we get into that fuel of $12.50, and in September, it was only $6,800 as far as expense.
Right, they just purchased a bunch of more fuel for the airport out there. So
Okay.
we're at, 11,000, just over $11,000 year to date through October.
Okay.
And obviously with costs of gas going up, I think that's why they purchased it. But I don't anticipate gas going back too much.
Okay. Anything on page 15? Anything on page 16? I talked to Jessica today on the transfer of 217 monies. Did you come up with an answer for that, what I talked to you about?
So what and I don't know if I understood correctly, and maybe when is this from? April of this year, of August of last year, there was a resolution passed to allocate $5,000 to rec park per year for 9 years. So transferring from 216 to 217, a total of $47,500.
From 216 to 217.
Yep, that's what it says.
Okay, that was transferred,
Yep,
but then the budget expense, that was his revenue.
and then in April of this year,
But now, see, that transfer was only a one-time transfer to get those funds where they were supposed to be at that time, because they were mixed up. And that was to correct the stuff that wasn't done previously. I agree with that one.
okay,
And then this year, what?
so then this year, when we talked earlier this year, we talked about, we did this year's transfer, 45,000 allocated out to city event funds for various events, plus the $2,500 that's unallocated.
Out of 217.
Correct.
But 217 is supposed to be used for,
I had it here.
activities in, Rec Park.
Yeah,
Or associated
Rec
with
Fest
Rec
gets
Park.
1,000
Yep,
for a 10-year period. Movies in the Park got 3,000 for a
You gotta-
3-year.
Get that.
Skiing and trails events will get 500 a year over a 10-year period.
Yeah, that's a skiing. And 1,000 to Rec Fest.
And 3,000 for 3 years for movies in the park.
That was 3,000. That was 1,000, but later in the budget, there's 1,500 for that. For movies in the park. It was $1,000 a year for 3 years.
Yeah, $3,000.
Yeah, but later in the budget, it's budgeted as 1,500 for that someplace.
Page 19.
Huh?
Page 19
Of
the budget,
the budget?
under city events.
Did I give you my
Yeah, under,
sheet by accident?
because it's different
think
in
so.
2 places.
Nope, not that one. No. Nope, I don't have that one.
Thought I had it here, but I don't have it in front of me.
Yeah, it's on page 19 of the new budget. There's 15, Dave's right there. And I had that X2. Because that should only be 1,000.
Okay. Well, I can look at that.
Okay. Anything else on,
I'm guessing you went off projected numbers, because through
Yeah.
October, we were at 1257. So you would round up to 15, is my guess.
That's possible that I
You
did
did
that,
the-
not realizing
yeah,
that we had that set already.
yeah, those are all set. Because that's why I gotta find out what the balance is non-allocated, you know? I okay?
1207. I guess I should read the right. I should use my glasses.
Okay, any other questions on 16? Page 17? Page 18? Now, is that warming house / trails underneath recreational? Is that coming out of
It's
what?
a transfer from,
Charitable gambling.
What?
charitable, it's a transfer from charitable gambling,
Oh, okay,
208.
yeah, so I was just wondering if that was coming out of one of the donation funds,
No,
but that's coming out of charitable gambling,
correct.
okay? You guys stop me if I'm rolling one. 19. That's where that movies in the park was.
Yep,
And so you can circle that one. And, okay, but then you had ski in there for 1,000, and that was only supposed to be 500 under city events. That's another one that shouldn't have been raised.
I'll go through all of those and
Okay.
look at them.
Okay. Any more questions on going to page 20? That's the other one that you gotta look at there is underneath the 217, the 6,500, that corresponds with what you said you'd look at,
Yep,
okay? Page 21. Do we know the balance of what, on the debt service, what Fairview still owes on the fire hall improvements?
That'll be paid off.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think in 2023, that one gets paid off.
is that what that is?
Do we have the debt schedule in here?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it says it will be paid off in,
Is it 2023?
2024.
4.
I think it
Okay,
has
there
2
it
years
is.
to go, but I just was wondering what the balance was.
But I think the fire hall, that's done next year.
I thought I read someplace 2024.
I think it's 2022.
Okay.
So that, yeah, that will help us a little bit for a year from now.
Anybody else have anything on any of the debt services? Because then we can. Okay, nothing? Okay. And then on page 25. You kind of answered my questions on that as far as the income and that on the water fund, you know. And then the transfer out of the 200,000, that from the liquor store to the general fund?
Yes,
Okay, so that's what we're transferring this year?
yep.
Okay. And all those figures at the bottom are deficits,
Correct.
but, so there's not a, like over on the so our cash and investment balance are not at deficit, but the other one are.
Right, because those are monies already received, so based on the way that we're budgeting the revenue expected for the water and sewer and the expenditures that are going out, we would be in a deficit for next year.
For next year.
Correct.
But-
Not as a whole.
Our cash flow would not be in the deficit if
Correct.
we don't pass the increased rate on reading 2, correct? It's just next year would be in a deficit.
Right,
But our cash flow would still be okay, because we got $1 million in the sewer fund, we got $1,066,000. And you predict a $43,000 deficit just for the year.
correct.
And overall, in all those, some enterprises, we have $3 million, and you're only predicting a deficit in 2 of them of 90,000. Correct?
Correct,
So we'd still have a total of 3 million in enterprise funds. Correct? So that's one reason, do we really have to raise rates?
The new water meters, what was the total
Uh,
estimate?
383,
right.
but we were gonna use 148,000 of the
Yeah.
ARPA funds
Okay.
towards that bond
And
issuance.
then we are taking out a certificate to pay for the rest. A bonding certificate.
Yeah,
Okay, of how much?
an equip 280 something, I think it is.
280,000?
Maybe, should we just take that out of the water fund,
That's what I was gonna ask.
rather than bond for it?
Oh, yeah?
Can't we do that?
You can.
You can.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the danger of that?
Yeah, I mean, that, if we took 200 and some thousand out of that.
It just throws the
800.
budget off from a standpoint of where it's gonna throw this into a further deficit, which is fine. It's just visually, it doesn't look good, but you have the reserves there to cover the cost.
It would only be a deficit for that,
For water
and
fund.
you could, yeah,
Yep,
but you'd still have a good balance in there.
Right.
And that could be explained that way.
correct.
And some of, I mean, the deficit reflects depreciation, which I mean, you figure that, you calculate that for a reason, because things do depreciate in real life, and at some point, you know, you do have to replace some of the facilities, but, and that's, hopefully, that would be what that reserve.
Yeah, so if we use a reserve, then you'd just be bonding for the street project next year.
Correct.
Yeah, which would be plenty.
That'd be 1.2 million something.
So you'd take a hit off the reserves, which you can afford to do because there's enough there, but you're still running at a deficit that's gonna keep eating that reserve.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that's what you'd have to be careful of.
Right, exactly.
But it'd only be a deficit for that year.
And then the next year, it runs at a deficit.
It'd be every year, yeah.
Yeah.
So you're knocking 50 grand off every year.
So the reason the rate increase was
Oh,
proposed,
no, you're not.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
you're running at a deficit.
So that,
and that's.
But if we throw just that purchase, that doesn't mean,
it'll just reduce
it'll just
cash.
be-
That's
That's
a one-time.
yeah, that's a one, that deficit's a one time,
But
but we'll
this-
still the next year have a $5,000 deficit, maybe.
Yeah,
Right.
and it's actually bound to go up a little bit, because expenses are gonna go up, and if the rates
No.
stay the
And-
same.
Yeah.
right,
that-
And you're gonna add depreciation of $383,000. So depreciation's gonna go up.
right.
So is that a change you'd like to make in the budget?
As far as,
Doing the water meters? And that would give us more income and we could lower
yeah,
the levy by that same amount.
yeah, we could, but yeah, I would like to see that fund used to pay for the meters. I think that would be wise. I mean, we're not getting any interest basically on this money. I mean, these funds are at what, 0.5% or 1%?
Our investments we still have quite a few at 3, 2, and 1.
Yeah,
So those are still doing really good.
Oh, those are doing better than I
Yeah.
thought.
Mm-hmm.
we've had a good few months of interest income.
But if we took out, like the 1% ones and use those rather than bonding for 2% or 2.5%, we'd come out.
Yeah, this would just reduce the cash.
Right.
The only, and then also if we take that off back there, then we can reduce our,
So this is gonna
It'll help us in the out years.
yeah, but we can also
My-
decrease our levy by that amount, because that's in there, correct?
Biggest
Yes, they-
concern with the budget right now is this year we're in good shape because we paid off the library, and that was 130-some thousand.
Right.
Added into the fund, or will be next year. But then when that street bond comes on, that's gonna be another 80 or 90,000 a month. And if we have to increase the levy to cover that, that's, you know, we're looking at a 8%, 7-8% increase. And that, I don't want, that can't happen.
Right.
So it's, and I don't know how to do that. I mean, it's, you know, if we maintain the budget at the zero levy this year, we won't deplete our reserves as much, and then we can carry that over and maybe use more of those reserves next year for 23.
When it might be more
It's
needed.
gonna happen.
Street bond.
Yeah.
But, but if you looked at the general fund levy, now we're asking 499,000 for it.
Well, I know, that was one thing that really
And at one time,
concerned me, was that the actual general fund expenditures, you know, ate up that whole 130,000 that we took off the books with the library. And that's not going away.
Right.
And that's where next year, for 23, I'm concerned that, which is why when we had the budget meeting, we we encourage to cut it. Cut it some. And
But, so what right now overall is coming as tax levy for the total general levy? Because I have a couple of different figures. September, it was 687,000, and now it's down to 605,000
Yeah.
that was what.
Yeah.
To get to a zero levy, yes.
for the zero levy. And that's all done with expenditures.
Yeah, I think
So
pretty much all the
Yeah.
funds,
can we take that other amount off that?
which.
What other amount?
The one that we're just talking about, the water meters?
Yeah, is
Well,
that,
that would have been debt anyway. It wouldn't have been in the
Right.
levy.
It's in the debt portion of the.
In the levy?
Calculation.
yeah.
Yeah.
Where, is that?
It's in the back.
What page?
But it was revenue we were
38.
spending, so we should have,
Well, no, it would be bonding,
It's cash. You're
okay,
spending.
yeah,
yeah, which,
but we're gonna take that,
and the debt service we would need.
we're gonna take that money out of bonding and put it up as,
We're not bonding for it. You were just talking about that you would pay it with cash.
yes,
You'd use your reserves.
Rather than bond for it.
okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So all you're increasing is your expenditures under your water fund of 300 and some thousand.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, so.
So you're not capturing any additional revenue
No,
in your
okay.
water fund, but you're spending down cash.
But we're spending down that cash.
The
Correct.
water meter bonding cost, is that in the debt service for next year, or?
It was.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
What page?
So.
That would have been,
Page 25,
In what?
page 23, sorry.
23?
So it is. It's actually on 24 on the, it's the last one, new water meter. There's no debt for 2022 because the schedule was set to start paying in 23.
Oh, okay.
So we had revenue captured of 28,000.
To get ready for the bond
to
payments.
Pay for the bond, initial bond payment.
Yep.
But we had to levy that 28,000 for the 2023 payment in 22.
And 23 is the year that I'm concerned with, and so if we,
So if we decrease that,
Decrease
that would be
it.
nice.
yeah. Now, that'd be a small bond, like 270?
Yeah, something
Yep.
like that.
Something like that.
Mhm.
What, the water meter?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
and that would,
So we would remove from the levy the 28,179. If you're gonna reduce cash and just pay it with cash.
yeah,
on for 2023,
2022 levy.
levy would be decreased?
Well, if you're gonna pay for it with cash, you're gonna remove that debt
28.
schedule completely out.
Okay, so that would decrease, but that wouldn't increase our whole levy, would it, correct?
That would decrease your levy.
It's
Okay.
gonna decrease the
Okay,
levy.
I thought you said it would, okay. Yeah, I would figure it up that way. Everybody
Using the
okay with
cash?
that?
Using
Huh?
the cash?
Doing the cash.
Yeah, it seems like it would make sense as long as we're not eating away at it, too quickly after that.
Okay.
and we suppose could look at just increasing the water rates, not the sewer,
Yeah, to just make up for that.
just to try to, and even, I mean, those rate increases,
Yeah,
that was only, be like 12,000 a year,
Right.
so we'd
Yeah.
still be at a deficit.
Right.
so at second reading, increase the water
Because you're still running the sewer at a deficit, but you do have
Yeah.
a balance,
healthy
so.
balance. Okay. Okay, you know where we're going with that?
Yep.
Okay. So anything else on the debt service? Anything else on the enterprise funds? Because I think we're getting to the end. Are we not?
Yep, we're at the end.
Because is there anything in the liquor that anybody had anything, or transfers? Back on page 35, that's the same question there, on those, transfers, you know, Jessica, that we talked about as far as activities. The 500, 1,000, I think those are right.
Yeah, this is what we
The-
came up with last fall.
Yeah.
or last
Yeah,
spring.
'cause that's where that 7,500
And
for
that
2022.
That 5,000 is for activities, but it's not designated to be moved out at this time. It has to be allocated out, because I don't think we ever, it just said to say for activities in 217, it
Well, that-
wasn't supposed to
no.
be moved to 215, I don't think.
Yeah, it was.
And what is that being paid for? What is that doing? See, I didn't think we had that 5,000 allocated
So we have,
just for other activities.
back in August of 2020,
Yeah,
there was a motion to approve future events to be paid for with donation funds in 217 as stated.
yes,
Recfest will get $1,000 per year over a 10-year period. Movies and Park will get $3,000 over a 3-year period. Skiing and Trails will get $500 per year over a 10-year period.
yep,
And a motion to approve the events from Donation Fund 217.
yeah. That's correct. But then the other stuff that was left in activity and unallocated was not to be moved to 215 like it is.
I guess that's the impression I got from the conversation we had last spring.
Yeah, no.
Because it's just
It's for activities in Rec Park,
right, it says
In
Rec
the
Park
future.
next to it.
yeah,
So it's other activities in Rec Park
yes.
is what
So it
it's
shouldn't
for.
be moved to 215, it can be spent out of 215 as it's being allocated, but it wasn't allocated over so many years.
I thought that
Yeah,
was.
there
what-
was 45,000
Right,
set aside on that.
It was set aside for future activities.
so in resolution 21-20, it says, there is a transfer from 216 to 217 in the amount of 47,500 and to allocate 45,000 to activities and events in Rec Park at 5,000 per year for 9 years. $2,500 of unallocated funds will remain in 217 until council deems otherwise.
Okay, but then,
So
Then
that's
it-
what that 5,000 is
Okay.
on here.
that shouldn't be transferred out of there, it should be spent in there.
Right
Well-
directly from 217.
Right directly from 217 rather than being transferred into 215.
Okay.
So you're saying don't do the transfer then?
Don't do the transfer, leave it in 217 and we'll spend it in 217 in Rec Park.
Is there any advantage to having these separate funds? I mean, bookkeeping wise or
Well,
organizationally, I mean, is it?
the funds basically are tracking the revenue and the expenditures, so when you are paying for something out of one fund and then receiving the revenues in a different fund, you don't have a good picture of what the true cost or if you made money or lost money essentially on that particular activity. So that's why they're all in one fund,
Sure.
broken
And that
out
was
by
the
event type.
Donor's purpose
Okay.
of separating those funds, and that's why we've been working at years trying to get that straighten around, and that's why we transferred so much out of 216 to 217, because of the purpose of the donations at that time.
I have a question though. I mean,
Yeah,
maybe it's a stupid question, but if we made a motion back then to take it out of a certain account, do we need a motion now to do so, or can he
Yes,
just say?
you do.
move it?
No, you need a motion
to what?
You know, I mean,
to
is that a stupid
not, no
question?
longer do that transfer.
But it never was a motion to transfer.
Yeah, it
Well, the
was.
way she read the meeting minutes, there was one, so
What?
that I was just inquiring.
Read the resolution again.
Well, it referred specifically to the
Events in Rec Park.
500 a month and 1,000 a month for the movies, but I can't remember now on the 5,000 per month, what
So if this is saying to move 5,000 per year for 9 years to rec park events. The city events fund is 215.
Yeah,
oh,
So when we
Oh, we
met
did do
earlier
that.
this year and talked about that, so the
but it
initial,
wasn't the event fund that was moved for, it's supposed to stay in Rec Park.
I guess that wasn't the understanding that
Oh.
I had when we met and I provided the schedule of what was happening.
Yeah.
So the money was moved from 216 to, from 216 to 217 is what the motion said. This
Yeah.
was last year. So then there was another one in April, but I don't have that with, I don't know where that went.
But there was never a motion to move it from 217 to
well,
250.
sounds like there was.
No,
There was
Because it
something
said
done in April
to
and I
move it
don't know what happened to my
Into
copy.
the rec park events fund.
which is 217.
Well, except she said that it's 250. I mean,
No,
the others are-
215 is
The
the,
events fund is 215.
Right.
but that's a separate event fund,
Okay.
Well, that's where that
Do we have
5,000
two
was
events
supposed to
funds
go.
then, or
huh?
do we have two different events, rec park events funds?
No,
No,
we just have the one.
just the one, this 217.
I thought 215 was.
215 is,
And
yeah. We have a Fund 215 just specific for events.
Yeah.
For events, but they're not events in Rec Park, they're all
They can
events.
be events anywhere,
Yes,
yeah.
But this is particular to rec park.
yes,
So that all the
and that was
events,
Dorothy's wishes.
right,
And that's
I
where-
understand that, but even events in rec park are under 215 if the money's, that's where the money's going.
it can be in Fund 215 and still be specified for
Rec
rec
park,
Oh, it should stay in Rec 217, I'm sorry. Cause that's where Rec Fest is, that's where the ski trails is, that's where movie.
Well,
Rec
Rec
Fest
Fest
has
even
its own
has its
fund.
own
Yeah.
fund. So
But,
then we should just take Rec Fest and put that all together too.
but I'm going by what the wishes of the donor was.
She wanted it to be spent for events in rec park.
Yes,
But how we designate that in, I mean, for bookkeeping purposes,
That's why it's
designated
215.
the same way as skiing on trails
Yeah, I
and
know.
movies in the park.
and those are in Fund 215.
No, they're in 217.
Well, then
They're
no,
in
they're in
215.
215.
What?
it's the
So-
skiing and the movies.
Movies set right here is
And
217.
No,
No,
I'm seeing it
page 35. Is that what you're on?
Yeah,
right after, right on the same line as skiing and trail events. 215, 39203. At the very top of the page, it notes 217.
well, just so they're kept for those funds, that's all I care about.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
the
they
purpose
are.
of the schedule, is to say that that's what they're spent for.
Okay,
So leave it as is?
well, that 5,000, actually, I don't care, as long as, that's fine. I'll talk to Dorothy about it, that's fine.
It's dedicated to that, so that's what it will be used for.
Okay.
Yeah, because the 216 and 217 are just the donations funds. That's why we set up the event fund.
Okay, that's fine. as long as the event funds are not used for any salary. That is one of the
They
great
never are.
wishes of the donor.
They're
They
not.
never
That none
are.
of her donations could be used for salary. Okay. Moving on. Page 36, 37. Anybody have any questions?
I was just wondering what parking lots you're gonna do, Gary. Are they-
Well, Park Commission and I don't know if it was brought to council a few years ago, maybe, but the parking lot in front of the new addition to the Grecki building there,
Oh, yeah,
Yep.
so all that gravel.
okay, I was hoping that's what it was.
Yeah, but that would be,
And then paved it.
Okay.
And
that-
what fund is that coming out of?
it'd be out of 216.
Out of what?
216.
Okay, 216? Mm-hmm. And then out of 218, is that the memorial? Mm-hmm. 1,000 has to be transferred back into 100,000 has to be transferred back into 216.
I don't know that we can do that. Those donated funds are for the best memorial.
Wrong.
That 100,000 was moved for them out of somewhere. Where'd that come out of?
Out of,
Actually, it wasn't moved at all because they already had the funds. They just came to ask to see if they could use the funds.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
And nothing was ever moved.
That's right.
Pull that mic closer to you, so.
Yeah, nothing was ever moved from that fund. They just came to ask if they could start the project ahead of time and dive into it.
Had they needed it to make the project go, then they would have used it.
Exactly.
Okay, the original resolution, Tammy,
Yep, 200,000 for Veterans Memorial.
1,000 was to be used for the memorial. And the other 100,000, I'm talking 100,000, the other 100,000 was to be in case they did not reach their goal and be used. And then if they did not reach their goal by the end of January 1st of 2023, then that 100,000, they could use part of that. And anything remaining out of that 100,000 would be then transferred back to 216.
I wouldn't transfer anything just yet, just because there's a shelter yet to build. So I would
But
wait
that's
on
not
that.
part of the memorial. And we can.
But that was-
We can use that 100,000 to do the maintenance of what the agreement between the memorial and those was written. So you're completely wrong on that, Tammy. That 100,000 belongs in 216 now, because they reached their goal.
What fund is that in now? Is it?
218.
Memorial.
The memorial
Yeah.
fund. And that was right in the agreement that it would come back to 216 for maintenance over the next few years. And that 100,000 has to be transferred back this year, according to the agreement. And in actuality, the Memorial Fund the committee did an excellent job of raising it, but that wasn't supposed to be spent till, at the end. But they made their goal, it's all paid for. They will still have about 22 or 23,000 in there for flags or anything that they have to do. Plus, they'll still have money coming in on new bricks, and that has to stay in 218.
Yeah.
And that was our agreement with
Yeah,
them.
and I recall when we had that discussion too about them having access to that funds temporarily,
Yeah,
or if by chance they didn't reach.
yes, and that's what that second 100,000 was for, and that was right from the donor that she okayed it if they didn't reach it, and her exact words to me was that she didn't want to donate it all to that because she wanted other people to also give.
What is the balance in 218? Is that, I mean, it must-
218,
should be like 100.
it's about 122,000.
So, yeah, that would make sense then, that would get transferred back.
Yes.
To 216.
And it's supposed to be.
And then they'll have that balance for flag money and repairs and whatever.
And repairs and.
Those flags are expensive.
Any more donations that come in for bricks or donations go right into 218.
Yep.
But that 100,000 has to come out. And that was the agreement we made with them. So,
Do you need any motion on that,
Yeah.
or?
Mhm.
Okay, I'll make a motion that 100,000 be transferred from 218 fund back into 216.
I'll second it. That was part of the agreement.
any more discussion on it? Norris, how do you vote?
Aye.
Lindsay?
I,
Corey?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Pete, yes. Motion carries. And that is to be used for maintenance in the parks, you know,
Yep.
so. Okay, getting back to the levy calculation. Are we to that point already?
Yep.
Okay, so these numbers will change a little now when you redo the stuff.
correct.
And that'll all be ready for us on the 17th,
16, isn't it?
16th,
15.
15th,
Try again.
15th.
14.
December
make sure.
15th.
Huh?
December 15th.
Okay,
Yep.
so we don't need any more motion till we get that final thing done, right? Correct? I don't hear anything from council members.
Yeah, that sounds good.
You got everything you need? Jessica,
I believe so.
you got any questions?
I don't think so.
And then, that one I ain't gonna worry about. I think the other thing as far as budget, I don't know if you guys read this, but highway state aid may help the county budget lose.
I didn't get a chance to read it, no.
Okay, they got, their new, engineer consultant. The last 3 years, under the last two engineers, the county has not been putting in supplementals for state aid. We found that there was between 800 and 900,000 of local dollars for state available to the county. So my question is concerning our budget. If they found this 800 to 900,000 for state aid, why did our project
Right?
last year cost so much?
Well, we had a lot of water and sewer in that, though.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That was a lot of,
Well,
I mean,
Our cost.
It was what it was.
it was what it
Yeah.
was.
The engineer, I mean, they went by engineer's standards, I mean, it was,
But if there was more local state aid, that could have cost us less.
well, I doubt they want to share that.
Well, I'm just saying.
Well, they will if it reduces the county levy.
Well,
I mean, that's basically sharing it with us.
yeah, yeah.
true.
Because the county levy now, I hope people get to their next, I'm going tomorrow night to the Truth and Taxation.
Well, it'll probably be packed.
Huh?
It might be packed there.
Well, that's all right.
Hope so.
And then they also have a open, what am I trying to think of?
Public hearing?
Public hearing coming up on raising their levies. I mean, raising their, fees. That's later in the month too, so. Any other comments? Motion to adjourn.
I have one
Oh.
council comment. The other day, I was over at the senior center, and I'm talking to some elderly ladies there, and they said, say, when you talk to Public Works, you gotta tell them, they had a pothole in my alley, and I called Dolores, and almost by the time I hung up the phone, there they were filling in the pothole. And then another lady said, yeah, same thing happened to me. I was barely off the phone with Dolores, and there they were fixing the problem. Thanks, guys. That's fun to hear that kind of stuff.
I think they're afraid of Dolores.
Huh? They are.
You might be onto something there.
You mean Gary's afraid of doors?
When Dolores says jump. Anyway, that was nice to hear. Always nice to hear those kinds of reports.
Yep.
Okay, we'll set the agenda for the,
Motion to adjourn, I think.
whatever.
What's that? Oh, motion.
We don't have a motion yet
Motion to
to adjourn.
Well, I asked for the
Oh,
motion.
I'll make the motion.
Second?
I'll second it.
All right.
Lindsay, how do you vote?
Aye.
Dave, you can't leave your chair before you
I
vote.
had to throw my recycling.
Oh, Corey,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Pete, yes?
Aye.
Okay, Norm. Oh, I do have some raffle tickets here.